Earlier this morning in Jerusalem, in Israel, two Palestinians have used makeshift weapons to go into Jerusalem and to attack Jewish people. They've managed to kill about six, I think, are confirmed dead, and dozens are injured, some in critical condition. Thankfully, on the scene, there were people on the scene with weapons. I think there were two people specifically that did have weapons on them and were able to take down the attackers. So thankfully, they didn't go into something much bigger. Yet still, six people were killed, and as I've said, many injured. Yet Israel is still discussing a deal with Hamas. And I should mention these two people. Hamas has claimed responsibility, and these two people either were, I'm not sure if directly, maybe somebody can correct me, were members of Hamas or just affiliated with Hamas or some other
Did,
terrorist organization
did
with
Hamas
Hamas.
say,
But
did
they did praise it, and I
they
think they
praised it?
did, and I think I've seen some reports that they've claimed responsibility. But again, it doesn't matter as much since Palestinian culture itself has been very supportive of this terrorist attack. Again, we had first and second Intifada, where the whole idea was sort of basically these kind of attacks. Buses were one of the places that were attacked. I'm not sure if the most, but sort of something you would see. And again, every single person was potentially threatened. And as you've said, the discussions about the deal are still going on. The support for Palestinian Authority and Hamas is still going on. And well, we'll discuss all of that today on today's episode of the Daily Objective. Joining me today is James Valiant. And so, yeah, I think I've mentioned sort of the basic ideas. James, any thoughts?
This happened in Jerusalem. I think that Hamas didn't claim responsibility, but they definitely praised it. And this happened in Jerusalem. But I think it only stresses the point that whether
Oh,
or
just
not it's
quickly, Bulmus in the chat says the actors pledged to ISIS, but Hamas did praise it. So,
Hamas did praise it. And so I don't care what group sponsored it or what group they're affiliated with or what group they're doing this in the name of. Maybe that's the best we can say here. This is the kind of ongoing warfare that no country should ever have to endure. We've had waves of intifada violence directed at civilians. It is an intolerable condition for Israel. Even apart from October 7th, Israel has been subjected to repeated attacks again and again and again, which are nothing short of acts of war that justify Israel to completely occupy both the West Bank and Gaza. I'm just going to say again and again and again, apart from October 7th, they are subjected to an intolerable set of vicious attacks on civilians, which no country has to put up with. It is an act of war. You know, we talk about the context for October 7th. It didn't happen in a vacuum, say, the UN official. Right. Of course, it didn't happen in a vacuum. You're right. Israel should have been attacking Gaza much earlier. Israel should never have unilaterally just left Gaza. How about that? But they put up with attacks for the better part of 20 years, rockets being lobbed from Gaza into Israel. Those were acts of war to which Israel should have responded and responded with an intense counter attack. Again, here, there's more Intifada style violence with this bus attack that kills six innocent civilians. I mean, they just opened fire on a bus in Jerusalem at a busy crossing. Six people get killed, several others are still badly injured. Okay, this is an act of war. This by itself justifies total occupation of the West Bank. Regardless of what you think of October 7th, October 7th, no, is just the climax, the kind of real total atrocity and act of war that Hamas would get away with should a two-state solution be enacted somehow. Now, our friends from France and Canada and Britain and Belgium who all think that they should recognize that this is what you get. You promise them Palestine, give them rewards for October 7th, Western leaders, and this is the natural upshot. President Macron, you are in fact a part of this problem. By dangling out the recognition of a Palestinian state, you encourage this to happen. Should your dream of a Palestinian state occur, Monsieur Macron, this is the kind of violence we can expect with two states. Imagine a Palestinian state controlling most of what's called Judea and Samaria and the West Bank. Okay, let's imagine a Palestinian state on the West Bank. What would Israel have to endure and suffer? Wave after wave of intifada violence until you get to the cause of this kind of violence against civilians. October 7th was just the most atrocious and ghastly example of the ongoing violence, the perpetual war that the West in its moral compromise has subjected Israel to, and frankly, Israel's own policy has subjected their own people to. And now what? We have on the table another ceasefire deal. Okay, Mr. Netanyahu is considering even a ceasefire deal with Hamas, as if Hamas could possibly be a good faith negotiating partner, as if they could be trusted. Unbelievable. And in the wake of this, so I have to say, yeah, even Israel's own policy is doing nothing to get at the root of this problem. And in fact, the world is tying Israel's hands to some extent. Israel is responsible, grant you. They shouldn't even be discussing ceasefire with Hamas. That encourages this sort of behavior. That is precisely what will guarantee a perpetual ongoing war. We've been living in effect with a two-state solution. That was Gaza under Hamas. And what did we get? Rockets, 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 year after year after year, and then October 7th. Now people are talking about recognizing a Palestinian state and no new ceasefire with Hamas. What do we get? People saying they're with ISIS, I guess, attacking civilians at a busy crossing in Jerusalem on a bus. No, they have to get to, people talk about root causes. If they don't get at the root cause of this kind of collectivist, mystic hatred of Israel that motivates what we call Palestinian culture, unless you get at that, unless you destroy it, unless you take the entire psychological wind out of them by utterly and thoroughly defeating them. In the wake of October 7th, Gaza City should have been rubble within days. Rubble within days. If Israel doesn't have the moral clarity to do that, if the world thinks that Israel's response in the last goddamn 2 years has been too much, has been genocide, when they're trying to feed these people, when they're protecting the civilians, going out of their way, doing unprecedented things to protect civilians, then Israel, I want you to look in a mirror. Following that policy does not protect you from this kind of civilian attack, from this kind of terrorist attack, as happened on the bus. This bus attack makes the overall situation perfectly clear. You cannot give Hamas, ISIS, the Palestinian Authority, I don't care who it is, you cannot give this evil ideology 1 little centimeter. You give it to them, and this is what you'll get. This is the natural upshot of the appeasement of the West. This is the natural upshot of Netanyahu even considering a ceasefire with Hamas at this point. This is the natural upshot. Dead civilians and more dead civilians, and a never-ending stream of dead civilians stretching out into the future without stop. That is what the appeasement of Israel and Western countries has led to, and will perpetuate, will protect, and will protect this violence, give moral sanction to this violence, and you'll get more dead civilians.
We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. A super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, James, I travel to US tomorrow. There is no Palestine. Is PC going to the UN General Assembly? Because that's starting tomorrow. I think you should probably go today. You're going a little bit late.
PC is no doubt part of the Iranian delegation or something. No, sorry, PC. Obviously not.
And we have one more super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says Islam is the root cause.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, more fundamental
yes,
it is,
yes.
but also, I mean, general mysticism and sort of anti-Semitism is the problem. I think again,
Yes.
like we say Islam, but look at like Christian Palestinians. they hate Israel as well as the Muslims do. You can, I think it's the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. That's a Christian terrorist organization, Palestinian Christian terrorist organization, founded by a
To be
Palestinian
fair,
Christian.
Christian culture was just as primitive, savage, and murderous as Islamic culture is today. I mean, generally, just go back in a time machine, a few centuries, and you'll find people being burnt at the stake, tortured slowly because they're heretics, just because they're a deviant form of Christian. People would get tortured and burnt at the stake in Europe just a few centuries ago. Europe was just as savage as Islam. And the root cause, to be precise, is not Islam, but religiosity. Religiosity in general. The reason why the West has lost the Christian, okay, the Christian majority populations in Europe and America, to the extent, I'm now surprised at how deep anti-Semitism still runs in so-called civilized Western countries. But to the extent that we've come off of the vicious anti-Semitism that would cause routine gang violence against local Jews throughout the Middle Ages and Renaissance, it's because of the Enlightenment, because Christians don't take their religiosity so seriously. Every form of collectivism is a kind of mysticism. I put society, capital S, over and above the individuals that actually comprise it. You, Daniel, me, her, him, the individuals involved. If there's something to which we as individuals all must sacrifice and owe our allegiance to, capital S society, and I don't care what you fill in the blanks there with the group, your racial group, your ethnic group, your religious group, you just divide people up intersectionally as much as you would like. Every form of collectivism is a form of mysticism, which places some mystic supernatural entity above the real individuals who live and breathe, you and me.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
well,
yeah, mysticism and collectivism are tied together. And so the real enemy here is religiosity. Are there moderate Muslims? Of course. They're irrelevant, though. They're irrelevant in today's context because the morally consistent, really hyper mystical collectivists are the ones in charge of Islam today, in charge of such governments as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, increasingly in Turkey. Okay, so what the people in control of Islamic culture today are ultra, uber religious. Okay, and that's the problem. The moderate Muslims don't matter. They don't. But what has moderated Christian views, bigoted, collectivist, mystically rooted religious hatreds against, say, Jews in Christian Europe or Christian America, has been the Enlightenment, coming down away from mysticism. Mysticism is the enemy. Religiosity is the enemy. This mystic collectivist axis, as Ayn Rand called it, well, mystic altruist collectivist axis, as Ayn Rand called it, that's the enemy. That's what gives these monsters their moral certainty. It is a failure to understand the Enlightenment values and a true embrace of Enlightenment liberal values on the part of the West that puts them in a morally compromised position. They think somehow they, the morally superior civilization, somehow should go around apologizing for being a morally superior civilization. So long as that exists, religiosity has the upper hand. The mystics have the upper hand. And mysticism is opposed to life on earth. By its essential nature, mysticism is opposed to life on earth. And you can see it playing out. And if you're mystically inspired as an altruist, what's going to happen? You're going to be appeasing those religious kooks who are out killing people, slaughtering civilians on buses. One more time, one more. Are we gearing up for another wave of intifada violence? Slaughtering civilians on buses? That's what, think about it, people in the West. When you hear people say globalize intifada, what they're saying is what we want is more of these bus attacks that just slaughtered 6 innocent civilians on a bus in Jerusalem. That's what it means to globalize intifada, slaughter civilians on a totally collectivist mystic basis. That's what it means. Whether it's Mr. Mamdani, the mayor candidate of New York City, who's let those words escape his mouth, no. Intifada means mystically inspired slaughter of civilians.
yeah, and I mean, you did mention the sort of moderate Muslims, but the fact is, to the extent, because there is anti-Semitism as part of Islam, as part of moderate Islam, and even of Christianity, as I'm sad to say. I mean, in my, I don't know how much you know about sort of like Eastern Slovak sort of culture or relationship with the Romani people, but basically they are really not viewed positively in any way. Yet we had like when I was in high school, we had like a class poll, and more people disliked Jews than the Romani people. And for the Eastern Europeans or Europeans who are in the chat, they understand how much that would take for like average person to like have a bigger distaste. And we are talking about the city that used to be 50% Jewish just 80, well, I guess it's not just 80, but 80 years ago, before the first globalized intifada happened by a specific regime in Germany. We have a
Millions of Jews slaughtered in the middle of Europe in the 1940s. Yeah, right. As Hitler was gathering up Jews from every corner of Europe that he could, so that he could put them into the gas chambers and slaughter them in the millions. Yeah,
we
and we wonder people why we need to have a Jewish state. Are they safe? Have they been safe? Oh, just take the last century. Have they been safe in any majority Muslim or Christian country? Look at the headlines today in the United States about Israelis getting killed because they attend a Jewish function in Washington, D.C. No.
We have a super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says it's third intifada. Well, thankfully, it's not yet on that level, but absolutely the Jewish
Beginning
people
of one.
are being. And sort of the response of the government was that in Judea and Samaria, they will be tougher on actions, because I think especially these two individuals, they weren't from Jerusalem. I think they were from Judea and Samaria. So that we also have the plan from Smotrich about annexing more than 80% of Judea and Samaria. So I think that's absolutely should happen. And I mean, James, do you know what is going to happen now when these two individuals killed a bunch of Jewish people? Well, they're gonna get a stipend, or rather, their family are gonna get a stipend from the Palestinian. No, I'm saying from the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority barely gathers any taxes. No, if you live in Europe, European Union, if you live in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Japan, or any country that gives money to the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, you are supporting this terrorism, because your tax dollars are going to the Palestinian Authority, which are then going to the Martyrs Fund that was supposed to be cut out. Earlier this year, in February, Mahmoud Abbas has issued a decree where he abolished Martyrs Fund, but just I think late August, Telegram channels in Judea and Samaria were saying that the Palestinian families whose family killed Jews are still or can still receive their stipend. So most likely the family of these two guys will receive money for
They'll be
this.
paid. They'll be rewarded. They'll be compensated for, their fighting the cause against Israel and killing as many Jews as they possibly can. They'll be paid. They'll be paid and rewarded. Think about that. You're absolutely right. And what I mean, religiosity, think of it. These two guys who opened fire, apparently there was an off-duty IDF person and another person there who neutralized these two shooters rather quickly, and that's good. But think of it, we still have 6 people dead and still people in critical condition in the hospital because of this. Okay, but they had to have known that they were probably not going to survive this, and it is a typical of Islamist attacks that be suicidal in nature. 9/11 in my country was a total suicide use of jet planes, for example. Suicide bombing is a part of their MO. So these people are so fanatically religious, they're willing to give up their lives here on earth for this religious cause. So don't tell me that the religiosity and mysticism isn't the enemy here. These people have contempt for life on earth. They're willing to slaughter innocent civilians and go down dying doing it. These people could not in any stronger way express their contempt for human life, life on earth, this world. I mean, if you were to take the principles of objectivism, reason, reality, improving your own life, things like that. These people, that kind of orientation is alien to these people. They are medieval mystic savages of the very sort that would torture, and though the Christians, as I mentioned centuries earlier, who would torture and burn people at the stake because they didn't toe the religious line. Mysticism is the cause. Religiosity is the cause. And their collectivism, which is a natural emanation of their mystical beliefs, is the cause. And what we do is reward it. We reward it when we say, here, we're going to recognize your Palestinian state. Here, oh yeah, here, take some money from the Martyrs Fund for the poor family, the families in this case, of the two attackers. Yeah, they're going to get paid, compensated and rewarded.
Yeah, and sort of going into, I think you mentioned it earlier, the deal. Now, again, here we are getting differing reports. I think what we know, I think Trump issued last warning to Hamas, saying, I have warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting. This is my last warning. There will not be another one. Then Trump has said that Israel has already accepted the deal, while somebody from the Prime Minister's office has said that no, he's just considering it. Then I've seen that Hamas has accepted the deal, which this deal would include all hostages being released on the day one of the deal, and then there would be a discussion about sort of ending the war. But now I'm seeing reports of Hamas not accepting this deal at all. So again, we are in this situation where again, it's nonsensical that
The
deal is discussed in any
the
way.
discussions play the good guys for fools. Are you kidding? Just having the discussion with them is their victory. It legitimizes them, gives them sanction. And are they in any way, shape, or form going to, even if there was a deal, do you think they'd comply? They'd remain in compliance with the deal? No, they're not good faith negotiating partners at all. You cannot negotiate with evil of this kind ever, at all. How could you even think about negotiating with the perpetrators of October 7th? I mean, you've already lost the entire situation. You've already put yourself behind the gun of perpetual intifada violence when you can even consider a ceasefire. Of course, Hamas is still playing games. Of course, we're still miles off. And of course, Mr. Trump issues his, this time's the last time they'll be held to pay. How many times have we heard they'll be held to pay from Washington? And with the Iran thing. Okay, you attack U.S. forces. You really get it. They attack U.S. forces. Well, they didn't kill anyone, so we'll let it go by. Well, okay. Every time. So Mr. Trump's words get less and less and less effective every time he doesn't follow up in the way he promises he'll follow up. Oh, this time they better accept the ceasefire, right? No. You really think they're going to? The people who take hostages as a matter of policy and tactics, right, are not going to give up all those hostages all at once. And the minute you get that sense, that even if you're so suckered into this the negotiation, the minute you get the sense that, well, we're not going to release all of them all at once, we'll release them a little bit over. No, over, game over. I already know you're in bad faith. And if I didn't know that before, surely that position should tell you that these people are not serious. They're not in good faith. This is just buying time so that they can engage in more terrorist violence and more atrocities. A situation that Israel should never have to endure. And the Western governments are telling Israel, you have to suck it up. Your civilians on buses have to die. Just get over it and accept it. We're going to recognize Palestinian states. We'll reward them. We'll make sure they get paid. The terrorists even get compensated for it. Oh, okay. No, it is inevitable what you get when you act like that. It is the policy of Western governments, including Israel, I've got to say, that causes perpetual war. And this bus attack is exactly the kind of perpetual war that will be endless. And until and unless we defeat the Islamists who call themselves Palestinians. thoroughly and utterly. We began after October 7th. Hamas must be utterly destroyed and defeated. Today, they're talking about a ceasefire with Hamas. 2 years later. Unspeakable.
Somebody says it's a vicious cycle, might not even be a Hamas follower, just an angry dad. Yeah, an angry dad
Yeah,
who pledged allegiance to ISIS.
yeah,
I
and is
mean, I
willing
mean,
to
again,
die,
like what are we talking about?
and who wants to kill civilians and is willing to die in the process. Yeah, I don't think from what I heard, it wasn't a Hamas person. Hamas had cheered it on and approved it, but it did happen in Jerusalem, and I guess the report is he's not Hamas. Yeah, but look at the ideology that motivates all of these people. You know, there may be strong ideological differences between, say, ISIS and Hamas. Guess what? These people know who their common enemy is, and they're willing to put aside their differences in the glorious cause of smashing Western civilization and killing as many Jews as they can. On that,
Somebody
there's agreement.
Somebody says, I 100% agree with you. However, I think it's important to understand the amount of pressure that's been put on Bibi. Well, step down. I mean, you are the leader of a nation. You are supposed to have a pressure on you. I mean, like, what do you expect? This is a war. Every single leader that is handling things during a war will have immense amount of pressure. What about the pressure on every single person underneath him? If he doesn't feel fit for the job, then give it to somebody else. Again, we cannot. We have to have demands of our elected leaders. We have to have demands of world leaders. Like, yeah, the job is tough. I wouldn't want like and to some extent, it is almost an impossible job because you have to appease sort of altruism within both the Israeli culture. But again, trying to act as Netanyahu is this like objectivist leader, and
Yeah.
he just has a pressure on him.
It's impossible to maintain a contradiction. It's impossible to play both sides of the fence. Yes, that is an impossible situation. And so what you do is you say, the pressure that I'm responding to are dead civilians in Jerusalem, not the pressure from President Macron of France. I'm sorry, I'm going to piss him off. I'm going to irritate him. He's going to lose sleep. He's going to call me names. Guess what? That pressure will have zero impact on me. The pressure of dead civilians in Jerusalem will be what motivates me. My job as the leader of Israel is to protect Israeli lives, not to appease foreign leaders in Canada and France.
Well, hopefully that pressure from Macron will not be there for long. Although France is technically a presidential republic, so he's not going anywhere unless they would sort of get rid of him, which I'm not sure how you can do in the French system specifically. But the French government did fall, so wish upon a star. The government is falling. Although it's as much as I like that his government is falling, it's not necessarily a positive sign since a lot of things that France is dealing with, the sides, the populist left and the populist right, have terrible solutions to them. So unfortunately, well, maybe there will be another
Well,
election
that's
which will
it.
not look pretty, but at least that will keep Macron busy and not have him deal with Israel and focus on Israel so much because they are trying to use Israel as a scapegoat from their own problems. But of course, tomorrow we have the UN, so we can shit on Israel for a few more weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, the Palestinian recognition. I think that's going to be in 2 weeks where they'll actually start talking about that. But
Yeah, but it's
that,
on the
James,
schedule.
last
It's
thoughts?
on the agenda to talk about recognizing Palestine. Yeah, so you know they will bring it up. Final words. God damn it. Yeah, all I can say is that, yeah, the situation in France, very much like the situation in America, not as bad perhaps, but you think, okay, what could be worse than Mr. Biden? Well, you get all the downsides of Mr. Trump too. If you, the problem is, of course, that the alternatives in Western countries are often not much better, if at all. In any case, I'm active on Facebook almost every day. Come hit me up if you have questions. James Stevens Valiant. I'm active here at the Ayn Rand Center UK. I'm going to be at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference at the end of October in Orange County. I think that if you can make it, there could be, I don't know, some interesting surprises too. That's where I guess I'll leave it. But please become a paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK. You'd have access to all kinds of wonderful educational material we provide here about objectivism and current events. So please join us as become a paid subscriber. You're getting a perspective here that you won't get anywhere else.
And also make sure to join us on the reality show where we'll talk about libertarian anti-Semitism. So you'll see this is not necessarily Islamic thing. It's not necessarily even a Christian thing in many ways. It is universal, it seems. Thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you in just 2 minutes. Until then, bye-bye.
Be safe.